Okay, so you've probably heard the news. Social Security recipients are getting a raise in 2026. Sounds great, right? But here's the thing. Does that cost of living adjustment, the COLA, actually cover what it costs to live? We're going to break down the numbers and see if this raise is really a raise at all.
So here's the big number everyone's talking about. 2.8%. That's the official COLA for 2026. And, on the surface, any increase sounds like good news. But as always, the real story is a little bit more complicated than that.
Which brings us right back to the main question, right? Is this 2.8% boost really enough to keep up with the cost of, well, everything? Groceries, gas, rent, all of it. And for millions and millions of retirees, the answer is a pretty clear no. So let's dig into why. To really get it, we've got to look at the gap between this official number and what seniors are actually paying for things day to day. And this chart really lays it all out. On the one hand, you have benefits going up by 2.8%. But on the other, this stuff that seniors spend most of their money on, we're talking groceries, housing, and especially medical care, that's going up by 3.1%. Now, that might not sound like a huge difference, but trust me, over time, that little gap becomes a massive problem.
And this isn't just numbers on a chart. People are really feeling this in their wallets. I mean, look at this. AARP did a survey, and it's pretty staggering. Only 22% of folks over 50 feel like this COLA is going to be enough. That means 78%, almost 4 out of 5 people, are either not sure or flat out disagree. That's a huge disconnect between the policy and what's happening in the real world.
So what gives? Why does this keep happening year after year? Well, the answer is all about how the government is doing the math. It kind of feels like they're using the wrong measuring stick to figure this all out. Okay, so the formula they use right now is called the CPIW. It stands for Consumer Price Index for Urban Wage Earners and Clerical Workers. And just listen to that name, wage earners and clerical workers. It's literally designed to track the spending of younger people who are still working, not people who are retired. And this is the real aha moment. The current method, the CPIW, puts a lot of weight on things like transportation, commuting costs, and food. But there's an alternative called the CPIE, where E stands for elderly, and that one focuses on what retirees actually spend a huge chunk of their money on, healthcare and housing. And look at the difference it makes. If we used the CPIE, the COLA for 2026 would be 3.1%, which, hey, is exactly how much their costs are actually going up. And this isn't just a fluke for 2026. Nope. If you look back over the last 26 years, the current formula has given a lower COLA than the retiree-focused one in 18 of those years. So this isn't a random blip. It's a systemic problem that has been chipping away at benefits for a long, long time. So what does all this mean in the long run? Well, the consequences are pretty staggering. We're not talking about a few dollars here and there. This is about a serious loss of buying power over the entire course of someone's retirement. Just look at this trend. Back in the 90s and 2000s, the COLA actually beat inflation about 60% of the time. Not bad. But then in the 2010s, that dropped to 40%. And now, this decade, it's plummeted to just 20%. It's pretty clear these adjustments just aren't doing their job anymore. When you add it all up, it's a huge hit. The Senior Citizens League calculated that Social Security benefits have lost about 20% of their buying power just since 2010. Let that sink in. $1 from your Social Security check today buys a fifth less than it did just a little over a decade ago. Let's talk real money. Imagine someone who started getting benefits back in 1999. Because of this gap and how the COLA is calculated, they've lost out on almost $5,000 over their lifetime. And if you think that's bad, it's only getting worse. For someone who retires this year, projections show they could be short more than $12,000 over a 25-year retirement. That's a lot of money that could have paid for prescriptions, rent, or just basic necessities. And just to make things even more complicated, there's another piece to this puzzle. Even if we fix the COLA formula, you've got other costs shooting up, like Medicare Part B premiums. Since that often comes directly out of your Social Security check, it can eat up a huge chunk of any raise you get before you even see it. So is anyone doing anything about this? Well, the good news is yes. The issue is definitely on the radar in Washington, and there are a couple of potential solutions being talked about right now.
Basically, there are two main ideas on the table. One is a bill called the Boosting Benefits and COLAs for Seniors Act, and that's a long-term fix. It would totally overhaul the formula, probably switching it to that CPIE we talked about. The other is the Social Security Emergency Inflation Relief Act. This one's more of a short-term band-aid, giving folks a temporary boost of $200 a month to help right now.
Both of these proposals have support from a number of Democratic senators. Names like Elizabeth Warren, Kirsten Gillibrand, Ron Wyden, and Chuck Schumer are behind them. Of course, for any of this to happen, a new federal law would actually have to be passed.
Okay, so what's the big picture here? Where do we go from here? This whole debate over the COLA, it's not really just about percentages and formulas. It's about something much bigger, the basic promise of what Social Security is supposed to be.
And this quote from the Senior Citizens League really puts a number on it. To make up for all the buying power that's been lost, they say the average retiree would need an extra $370 a month. Think about that. That's more than $4,400 a year. It really shows you the scale of the problem we're talking about. And that leaves us with a really important question to think about. When you strip away all the complicated formulas and the politics, the core issue is pretty simple. As the cost of living just keeps going up, how do we make sure that our promise of a secure retirement actually keeps up with reality? What's the right way to even measure that promise?